Hello, my name's Avon. At my parents' housewarming party, they stood me in front of everyone and handed me a family contract termination. Yeah, like I'd been fired from being their daughter. They said it was time to move forward as a family, without me. But that wasn't the worst part. They'd already sold the house I helped renovate, transferred guardianship of my niece behind my back, erased me from legal documents. And then they rewrote the story online, called me unstable, said I wasn't even their real child. So I started writing my own story. Want to know how far they went to erase me and what I did about it? It was the kind of Saturday that made Eugene look like a postcard. Crisp sunlight cut across the trimmed lawns, kids zipped past on bikes, and my parents' new beige house gleamed like it had something to prove. Everyone was already gathered out back, beer coolers on the deck, folding chairs half sinking into the grass, a Bluetooth speaker fighting with the sound of laughter. I stood near the grill, flipping hot dogs with one hand and holding a roll of trash bags in the other. I hadn't planned to stay long. I told myself I'd show up, smile just enough, and leave before the usual dynamic swallowed me whole. Then my mother clinked a glass with her fork. The crowd shifted. Someone turned down the music. She stood beside my father, who nodded like they were about to deliver something life-changing. I felt a sliver of tension rise in my chest. Not because I expected anything good, but because I knew the kind of silence that came before a blow. She unfolded a piece of paper. Clean white. Printer perfect. "Thank you all for coming to our housewarming," she began. "Before we toast, we want to share something important with you." I stepped forward slightly, trying to catch her eye. She didn't look at me. "This," she held up the paper, "is a formal notice, a realignment of roles, so to speak. From this day forward, Avon is no longer considered part of the family's support structure. She's released from expectations, obligations, and any assumed involvement in our affairs." There was a beat of silence, the kind that feels like all the oxygen has been drained from the world. I didn't blink, didn't breathe. I heard someone's fork clatter onto a plate. It wasn't the words. It was the tone, like I was being offboarded from a job I didn't know I still held. Selin coughed into her drink. Rion turned to talk to someone about baseball. My father took a long sip from his beer and didn't even flinch, like this had been rehearsed. So I said, without raising my voice, "Was this printed at a Staples?" A few awkward chuckles escaped, but no one looked directly at me. I wasn't angry, not yet, just hollowed out. That piece of paper had more presence than I did. My mother smiled like she'd just nailed a presentation. "Let's eat." People scattered like roaches in sudden light. I stood there, the sun sharp against my neck, still holding the trash bags. I don't remember tossing them. I must have. Because the next thing I knew, I was standing off to the side, near the edge of the patio, watching them group up for the family photo. "Big picture time," someone called. I moved to join, and stopped when I heard Selin murmur, just loud enough, "Maybe sit this one out. You know, optics." "Optics," I repeated under my breath. I stepped back. The photographer framed them, smiles bright, arms looped around each other like it was a Christmas card moment. And me, I stood by the trash bin, holding a plate of untouched salad. Click. Just like that, I was out of the frame. Not metaphorically, not emotionally, physically, cut out as cleanly as a photo crop. They didn't need me there. They just needed me not to cause a scene. I didn't give them one. Instead, I watched the sunlight bounce off the new windows, the ones I'd helped install back in March before the move. I thought about the weekends I'd spent here, repairing drywall, hauling gravel, holding up their dream while mine collected dust. I thought about all the times they'd said thank you without ever saying, "You matter." And then I thought, maybe that paper wasn't the insult I thought it was. Maybe it was freedom disguised as rejection. As the camera clicked without me, I finally realized, this wasn't just a bad moment. It was the last straw. I didn't stay long after the photo. I slipped out the side gate while they were still posing with forced smiles and wine glasses, the clatter of polite laughter echoing behind me. The walk to my car felt longer than it should have. Maybe because I wasn't walking away from a party. I was walking away from a position I'd held my whole life without knowing it had a title. Or a termination date. Back at my apartment, I tossed my keys into the bowl by the door and kicked off my shoes. The place smelled like clean linen and leftover Thai food. It was quiet. The kind of quiet you only notice when your whole body's still vibrating from someone else's noise. I didn't cry. Instead, I poured myself a glass of water, sat on the edge of the couch, and just stared at my phone like it owed me an explanation. No missed calls, no apologies. Not even a text from Celine to smooth things over, which she usually did with her fake sweet tone and emoji band-aids. I set the glass down, opened my laptop, and figured I'd check my schedule for next week. Maybe pick up an extra shift. Something grounding. That's when I saw it. A forwarded email marked FWD:family roles open parenthesis housewarming planning close parenthesis. Sender, Celine. Accidentally forwarded from her work account. I clicked. At the top. From Thalia Harwood. To Celine, Ryan, Dad. Subject, housewarming planning notes. It started innocent enough. Menu suggestions, table setup, parking coordination. Then, near the bottom, a single paragraph caught me in the chest, like a punch I never saw coming. Avon won't be involved in the photos or speech. She's not part of the structure anymore. She'll understand. She's used to being on the outside. I reread that line 5 times. Not part of the structure anymore. It sounded like I was scaffolding they no longer needed now that the building was done. I leaned back, chest tight, fingers frozen over the trackpad. The worst part wasn't that they'd excluded me. It was that it wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't heat of the moment. It was planned, written, shared. Like a team coordinating how to fire a long-term employee without a lawsuit. I stared at the ceiling for a while, trying to decide if this was worth confronting. Then I picked up my phone and texted Celine. Me. Did you mean to forward that? No response. 15 minutes passed. Then a voice memo. I pressed play. Her voice was soft, almost sing-song. Casual. Avon, look, it's not like we hate you. You're just not needed anymore. You don't have kids, no husband, no house. This is how it works now. I sat very still. She said it like she was explaining why a grocery store discontinued a brand. Not needed anymore. As if love was a job description I had failed to fill. I didn't respond. I didn't throw my phone across the room either. I just placed it face down and walked to the window, where the last of the evening light had faded into a flat gray. They'd always treated me like the extra piece, useful when needed, stored away when not. I thought back to the time I stayed up with Leora during her senior project when Celine had a migraine. Or the weeks I lived with Mom and Dad after Dad's back surgery, missing work to make sure someone was there during recovery. Every time I said yes, I thought it meant I belonged. But maybe all it ever meant was that I was convenient. I made myself sit with that thought. Let it sting. Let it brand. I wasn't just cut out. I'd been edited out long before the ink was dry. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the blinds like it had no idea what happened the night before. I hadn't really slept, just drifted in and out, letting my mind chew on every word Celine said, every line of that email. Not needed anymore. I got out of bed without checking my phone. No one would have texted. I wasn't on their radar unless I had something they wanted. It was strange, though, how quickly you go from family to footnote. After a quick shower, I made a cup of coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the same chipped mug I used when I first moved in. The silence wasn't comforting today. It echoed. I don't know what pushed me exactly, but halfway through my coffee, I grabbed my jacket and keys. I told myself it was just to get my work license. I'd left a few old documents in the filing box at the house they'd all moved out of, the house I grew up in. It hadn't sold yet. Dad mentioned that during one of his monologues about market timing, so it would still be there. Empty, but not forgotten. Driving over felt like walking barefoot across glass you laid down yourself. The house sat quiet when I pulled into the driveway. Same dull tan paint, same creaky mailbox, but no life in the windows. No Leora dancing down the hallway, no mom yelling about fingerprints on the fridge, just stillness. I used the spare key. They hadn't changed the locks, and stepped inside. It smelled like dust and faded memories. I headed straight for the closet in what used to be my room, tugged the plastic file box from under a stack of folded tarps. I flipped through folders until I found the one labeled Legal Personal. Inside were old tax forms, copies of job contracts, and something that didn't belong, a manila envelope, no label. I opened it. Inside was a guardianship document, dated 6 months ago. I blinked. At the top, guardianship transfer, Leora Harwood. And below it, primary guardian, Ryan Harwood. My chest went cold. I scanned the page again, hoping I read it wrong. I hadn't. Not only had I been removed, but I wasn't even listed as a secondary contact. Just gone. Leora was 19, still legally under care for another few months due to the terms Grandma set up after her illness. And I'd promised, sworn, I'd protect her when things got rough. She'd lived with me for a full semester while Mom was dealing with one of her exhaustion phases. I took her to therapy. I fought for her at school. I filled out every line of every form so she could apply for grants and housing. And now I didn't exist. I sank onto the floor, the file trembling in my hands. I thought I was done being shocked. Turns out I still had room. A sharp memory hit me. Dad talking about some little account Grandma had left for Leora. Something to help when she turned 21. A trust, he said. Nothing big, just enough for school or rent. I stood up too fast, heart pounding. My laptop was still in the car. Back in the driver's seat, I pulled up the document archive I'd set up during Leora's FAFSA hell. I searched for the fund name, found it, still active. Then I saw the listed manager, Ryan Harwood. I leaned back, trying not to scream inside a car that wasn't mine, in front of a house that no longer welcomed me. I clicked deeper. The fund wasn't being held for Leora, it was being used. Withdrawals labeled as administrative fees and household expenses. Nothing matched tuition or essentials. And Leora? She had no clue. I wanted to call her, to warn her. But the weight of that file on my lap reminded me who they'd chosen to speak for her now. This wasn't an oversight. It was a plan. They didn't just sideline me for being inconvenient. They erased me because I stood in the way. I'd always asked too many questions. Always wanted to see the paperwork, double-check the math, protect the wrong people from the right ones. And now they'd secured the silence they needed. If they were willing to erase me from Leora's life, then what else had they stolen while I was too busy saving theirs? By the time I got back to my apartment, the sun had already tucked itself behind the hills. My headlights lit up the garage door like a spotlight I didn't ask for. I turned off the engine, hands still gripping the steering wheel. I hadn't spoken a word since I left the old house. I didn't have to. I'd heard enough for one day. Inside, I dropped my bag on the floor and sank into the couch without bothering to take off my shoes. The weight in my chest had moved. It wasn't sharp anymore, just heavy, like someone had laid a concrete slab over my ribs and expected me to carry on breathing normally. I didn't open my laptop. I didn't eat. I sat in the silence, the kind that only comes after something breaks. Then my phone rang. I stared at the screen. Dad. Of course. Of course he'd call tonight. I almost let it go to voicemail, but some part of me, maybe the sliver that still needed to confirm this wasn't just a fever dream, pressed accept. Hey, kiddo. His voice came, light, like we were catching up after a ball game. You busy next weekend? I blinked. I need someone to watch the kids while we head out of town. You know, nothing big. Just a little getaway for your mom. Thought you might swing by. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, stunned by how cleanly he dodged reality. Not a single mention of the paper, or the email, or the trust. Nothing about the fact that I wasn't even family anymore, according to his wife. Are you serious right now? I said quietly. He chuckled. Well, yeah, you've always been good with the little ones. Figured this was no different. It was like talking to a fog bank. Words went in, but nothing solid ever came out. I didn't yell. I didn't lecture. I just waited for him to stop talking, then said, "I don't work here anymore." The silence on his end lasted just long enough to sting. Then came the forced exhale. "Don't be dramatic, Avon. You know how your mother is. Just do what you always do. Show up and hold it together." I ended the call. Just like that. A clean break. I set the phone on the table, face down, and stood up to pour a glass of water. My hands weren't shaking, but they felt foreign, like they'd just handled something too hot or too alive. Not 5 minutes passed before the screen lit up again. Selin. This time, it wasn't a call. It was a message. Long. Too long. I opened it. "If Mom ends up in the hospital again from all this stress, that's on you. You should have stayed quiet. You're being selfish. You always make things harder when you're not in control." I read it once. Then again. It wasn't guilt. It was punishment for stepping out of line. The thing about shame is that it's sneaky. It wears the clothes of love, speaks in familiar voices, and uses your own memories as ammunition. But this? This was no longer disguised. They didn't want me to be part of the family. They just wanted me to keep acting like I was, for their benefit. I didn't reply. I didn't even delete it. Instead, I walked to the window, looked out at the dark street, and let myself feel the edges of the anger that had started to harden into resolve. I had cooked every holiday meal, painted 3 rooms in that new house, held my mother's hand through 2 hospital visits, and stayed overnight once because she was too scared to sleep alone. I had shown up, again and again. And now they were rewriting the narrative to cast me as the villain, for finally stepping out of line. They wanted the free labor, the emotional sponge, the woman who never said no, but I was finally learning how to say it. By midweek, the tension in my chest had calcified into something solid, something cold. It wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about clarity. If I wanted any chance at peace, I needed to get rid of the last thing tying me to their mess. My tools were still at the old house. I had agreed weeks ago, before the contract, before the erasure, to help clear it out. One last favor, Mom had called it. I thought it would be a group effort, sorting memories, saying goodbye. But as I pulled into the empty driveway that Wednesday afternoon, it was obvious I'd be doing this alone. The curtains were gone. So were most of the light fixtures. The air inside was musty, stale in the way that only a lived-in space can get after the people leave, but the tension lingers. I found the cleaning supplies stashed in the hall closet, took a deep breath, and got to work. Room by room, I packed old books into boxes, swept dust from the corners, and wiped fingerprints off walls I'd painted myself. The fridge buzzed louder than usual, like even it was confused about the silence. 2 hours in, sweat running down my back, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "We knew you'd want to do it your way. Thank you." I stared at the screen, then placed the phone face down on the counter. That wasn't gratitude. That was strategy. They'd planned to let me believe I was choosing this, to give me a chore wrapped in autonomy. But I wasn't blind anymore. They didn't come because they never intended to. I finished the kitchen, then headed to the garage to grab the last of my things. My old toolbox sat where I left it, covered in dust, wedged between a broken lamp and a paint-streaked tarp. As I lifted it, something slid from behind. A thin manila folder, slightly bent. No label, just wedged tight beneath the edge of the workbench. I opened it without thinking. Inside was a real estate agreement. Date stamped 2 weeks before they asked me to help clear the house. Signatures, Thalia and Marvin Harwood. I flipped to the last page. Final buyer's offer. Acceptance. My jaw tightened. They had already sold the house before I ever touched a mop, before I carried a single box, before I gave up a weekend thinking I was helping our family transition. I wasn't helping. I was being used. Again. The words blurred on the page, not from tears, but from fury. A deep, stinging fury that settled low in my stomach, like a stone dropped in water. I snapped a photo of the signed contract and saved it. Then another, close up, in focus. Proof. Proof they hadn't just excluded me. They'd orchestrated my usefulness down to the minute. I set the file down, stood in the center of the garage, and looked around one last time. Every nail I'd hammered, every shelf I'd reinforced, every stain on the floor I'd tried to scrub out. Gone. Papered over. Sold out from under me. They had cashed in, and I was just the cleanup crew. I walked through the house slowly, flipping off light switches as I went. One by one, no goodbyes, no sentimentality, just facts. They'd planned every inch of this. When I reached the front door, I hesitated. Not out of longing, but out of finality. Then I stepped outside and locked it behind me. I walked out of that house with nothing, but this time it was on purpose. Back at my apartment, the quiet wasn't peaceful anymore. It was loaded. Every creak of the floorboards, every hum from the fridge felt sharper, like the walls were holding their breath with me. I dropped the toolbox beside the door and went straight for the kitchen table. I pulled out my laptop, set my phone beside it, and laid the photo of the house contract out on the screen like it was evidence in a case I hadn't known I was building until now. Because that's what it was. Evidence. Not just of a sale, but of a decision. A conscious choice to leave me out. Again, I opened a blank folder on my desktop. Labeled it, "They thought I wouldn't notice." I was done pretending this was all just misunderstanding or miscommunication. This was intentional. So I was going to be intentional too. I was midway through cataloging my documents when my phone rang. Not a number I recognized, but it was local. Hello? Hi, this is Jenna from Oregon Mutual. Just a quick follow-up regarding your emergency contact update? I paused. I'm sorry, what? Jenna hesitated. Your sister, Celine Harwood, submitted a change form last week. We were verifying that you no longer wished to be listed as an emergency contact for your parents. I blinked, mouth dry. I didn't submit anything. Another pause. Right, that's what I thought. Your name was on file for years, so I figured I'd double-check. Could you send me a copy of the form she submitted? Jenna lowered her voice. Technically, I'm not supposed to, but yeah, I'll email it. Minutes later, it arrived in my inbox. A PDF scan. I opened it slowly, even though I already knew what I'd find. Celine's handwriting, her email, her signature. She'd removed me, not just from holidays or text threads, but from the actual line of care. From the place where someone would call me if Mom collapsed again, or Dad landed in the ER. The form listed Celine and Ryan as the only authorized contacts. I wasn't even a backup. This wasn't exclusion anymore. This was erasure. I hit print. Then I took screenshots. One of the email, one of the PDF, one of my old policy information, with my name still on record. I added them to the folder. They thought I wouldn't notice. Then I opened a new message. Addressed it to Celine. Attached the PDF. No subject. In the message, you want me gone? Then, let's make it official. You erased me from the record. I'm just following your lead. Let's keep it clean from here on out. No greeting, no sign-off. I hit send, and for the first time in weeks, I breathed all the way in. That night, I got one more call. Dad. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me was still curious. Avon, he said, his voice a strange mix of casual and annoyed. What's all this mess? Your sister's upset. I didn't say anything. We didn't hire outside help for the house because, well, you were there. You've always been there. We figured, why spend money when we have someone we can rely on? There it was. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. You mean someone who's accessible? I asked, voice level. He hesitated. I mean, look, you don't have the same obligations. You've always been available. That word again. Not loved, not trusted, available, like an open storage unit, like a wrench. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't list the years I'd given them. I just said, "From now on, I come with terms, like everyone else you hire." And I hung up. Then I turned off the phone, slid it into a drawer, and closed my laptop. I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet. But I felt clear. They wanted me gone on their terms. If they wanted a clean break, I was finally ready to give them one. With my name signed at the bottom, this time. By Friday, the air had changed. Not just outside, though the wind had picked up and the trees outside my apartment were starting to rattle, but in me. I wasn't raw anymore. I was resolute. That morning, I brewed coffee and sat with my laptop, reviewing the folder I'd been building. Digital breadcrumbs of every decision they thought would go unnoticed. But as I sipped and scrolled, a message pinged through on Messenger. It was my cousin Shelby. "Hey, what's going on with your mom's Facebook? Why is she saying that stuff?" My pulse skipped. I hadn't even opened social media in days. I clicked the link she sent. It was a photo post. My mom standing in front of their new house, smiling with a glass of wine in hand, surrounded by Celine, Ryan, Kale, and Leora. Everyone looked perfectly arranged, like a catalog page of familial bliss. But it wasn't the photo that gutted me. It was the caption. "Surrounded by my true family. It's been a hard choice, but necessary. Some people just aren't blood, no matter what they claim." The comments underneath piled up like dirt on a grave. "So brave to cut out toxic energy. Family isn't DNA, it's loyalty. Proud of you, Thalia. Some people just bring drama." Then came the reply that made my stomach drop. "She's not even my real daughter. She's been estranged since she was a teenager. It's been years of emotional distance. This was long overdue." I couldn't breathe. Adopted? Estranged? Years of distance? I was there last month. I bought the paint for that hallway. I took her to urgent care when she twisted her ankle in February. I made soup from scratch when she was on bed rest. And now I was a stranger? I stared at the screen, jaw clenched, hands trembling. This wasn't just exclusion, it was character assassination. She was crafting a story where I never existed. Or worse, where I had always been an outsider. I wanted to scream, but all I could do was sit there in disbelief while the comments multiplied. I didn't reply. Not there, not yet. Instead, I opened a new browser tab and searched my own name. Nothing yet. But I knew how fast things could spread. It was a strategic play, make me look unhinged, disconnected, unreliable, so that if I ever spoke up, no one would listen. Later that afternoon, my Aunt Jolene texted me. "Hey, I got your mom's holiday card. Thought maybe you'd moved?" Attached was a photo of the card. The Harris family, Thalia, Marvin, Celine, Rion, Kale, and Leora. 6 names, 6 smiling faces. No avenue. Not even a "we miss you," not even a blank spot. I was erased like whiteout, like I'd never been there in the first place. I stared at the image, then saved it to my phone, added it to the folder. Another document. Another thread. At first, the pain was sharp, but the more I looked, the more something inside me steadied. They wanted control of the narrative. They were rewriting the history of my existence, but they didn't own the truth. I closed my laptop, stood from the table, and walked to the small desk near my window. I pulled out an old journal, the one I used to write in during my night shifts back in construction, when I'd jot down material costs and deadlines alongside half-formed poems and rants I'd never say out loud. I flipped to a blank page and started writing. Not a post, not a letter, but my version. Who I was. What I did. What I gave. The truth. It wasn't for them. It was for me. And for anyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong in a story they helped build. If they wanted me erased from their story, I was finally ready to publish my own. The following Saturday, the sun showed up late to Coos Bay, dragging its light across the streets like it, too, had been exhausted by the week. I'd been staying busy, maybe even a little too busy. The cafe down the street needed someone to pick up weekend shifts, and I hadn't hesitated. Coffee stains were easier to scrub out than emotional ones. At the cafe, I moved like muscle memory. Brew. Serve, smile, repeat. Brinley, the owner, had a laugh that cracked through the quiet like fireworks. She didn't ask questions when I volunteered for the early shift. She just handed me the apron and winked. "This one's yours now," she said, patting the register. "No ghosts hiding behind that screen." I liked that. I liked her. On my break, I checked my phone out of habit. A new message blinked across the screen. From Leora. "Hawaii trips canceled." That was all she wrote. No emoji, no explanation. A minute later, another message followed. "Dad doesn't want to pay for help, and everyone's fighting about who watches the kids. He's freaking out. I think Seelan threatened to pull out entirely." I just stared at the screen, sipping my lukewarm coffee with the edge of a smile. There it was. Proof. They didn't miss me. They malfunctioned without me. Every chore, every schedule, every last-minute favor I'd pulled off without complaint. It had been invisible when I was doing it. But remove me, and the whole machine sputtered. I felt something strange rise up inside me. Not triumph, not revenge. Something more like bittersweet relief. The kind you feel when you see a broken fence that used to look perfect until you stopped being the one nailing it back together. That night, while folding laundry in my studio apartment, Leora sent me a third message. A photo. At first, I didn't recognize it. Then I did. The housewarming picture. The one I'd been told not to join. She was in the front row, awkward smile in place, hands folded in her lap. The rest of the family, posed, glossy, perfect. And me? I was in the far background, blurry and bent, carrying a trash bag toward the bin. Almost a ghost in motion, unfocused, half out of frame. But still there, still there. I saved the image. Then I printed it, black and white, and pinned it above my bed, right next to a new sticky note that simply read, "Proof. Not pain. Proof." Because erasure isn't just an act, it's a process. And I was no longer participating. Sunday morning, I showed up early to the community center for my photography class. Naran, the instructor, greeted me with a crooked smile and a Nikon hanging from his neck like a necklace. "Early bird," he said. "I brought questions," I replied. He raised an eyebrow, nodding toward the open window. "Best lights right now. You want to shoot or talk first?" "Both." I stayed late after class. Not because I needed the practice, but because it felt like the first place in a long time where no one asked me to shrink. Naren let me try his old canon. "Every photo tells two stories," he said. "One you meant to capture, and one you didn't realize you were revealing." I thought about that all night. Back at home, I opened my journal again. Wrote, "They blurred me out of the picture. But now, I'm framing my own." 2 months later, the gallery smelled like old wood and fresh paint. The kind of mix that made you feel like something was beginning. Not loud or explosive, just real. I arrived early with Brinley, who helped me carry in the last framed print. Naran was already inside, adjusting a row of spotlight track lights with a folded bandana tucked in his back pocket, like a painter who forgot what century he was in. "Still time to run," he said with a grin. "I walked in," I replied. "I'm not running out." The space wasn't huge, just a converted storefront between a tailor's shop and a used bookstore. But it had character. Brick walls, uneven floors, windows that caught the late afternoon sun just right. One corner had a white painted panel labeled "Local Voices," and beneath it, the centerpiece of my exhibit. A blurry photo from the housewarming, taken from behind the crowd. You could barely see my face, half-turned, mid-step, in the background. I'd titled it, "Out of Frame." Below the title, a caption. "Sometimes being cut out is how we learn where the edge is." People filtered in. Not a big crowd, but not empty either. Cafe regulars. One of my old site managers. A woman I'd met at the co-op who ran a soup kitchen on Thursdays. Naran's sister. Brinley's roommate. Faces that didn't expect me to explain myself. And then, near the back, someone slipped in quietly. I almost missed her. Leora. She didn't make a scene, just found a seat in the back corner and gave me a small wave, the kind you give when you're not sure you're allowed to do more. I walked over. She stood. "Hey," she said, eyes misty but steady. "You made it," I replied. "They think I'm with Kale." She shrugged, pulling a hoodie tighter around her. "I parked 3 blocks away." I smiled, soft and exhausted. "You didn't have to come." "I did," she said. "And they were wrong about you, all of them. I know that now." I didn't cry. I'd cried enough for 2 lifetimes. Instead, I pointed toward the photo. "That's me," I told her, blurred, forgotten, but still there. She stared at it. "You're not blurry to me." We didn't say anything else. We didn't have to. Back in Eugene, I'd heard through my cousin Marcus that things had begun to unravel. The post Thalia made about me not being her real daughter had sparked more than outrage. It sparked investigation. Apparently, one of my uncles confronted her at a family barbecue. Someone else called out Seelan during a church committee meeting. Ryan's role in the trust fund came under quiet scrutiny, and while nothing was pursued legally, the silence that followed was damning. No lawsuits, no arrests. But consequences? Oh, they came. Whispers traveled faster than truth ever could. Reputation is a fragile thing when it's built on fiction. Seelan stopped posting altogether. Marvin got disinvited from poker nights. Thalia's invites were left unopened. They still had each other. But it wasn't the pedestal anymore. It was the echo chamber. That night, after the gallery closed, I sat alone in my apartment with a glass of water and an empty inbox. I wasn't waiting for apologies. I wasn't hoping for mended fences. I'd finally understood something I wished I'd known years earlier. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you choose to give yourself. I opened the folder I'd kept through it all. Screenshots, copies, printouts, notes. It had become something more than a shield. It was a record, not of revenge, but of reality. I didn't need to post it anywhere. The truth didn't need volume to exist. Before bed, I opened my journal one last time. Final entry. They said I was no longer part of the family. Fine, I built one that included me. Sometimes the biggest betrayal doesn't come with yelling or slammed doors. It comes quietly, dressed as duty, disguised as love. For anyone watching who's ever been the helper, the reliable one, the one who held everything together while quietly falling apart, I see you, I was you, and here's what I learned. You don't owe anyone your silence to keep their peace. Love without respect is just control in a softer voice. And family? Family isn't just who raised you or who shares your name. It's who shows up, who sees you, who keeps you in the frame. You're allowed to draw your line. You're allowed to walk away. And when you do, it's not the end. It's the beginning of your story. So let me ask you, have you ever felt like you were erased from a story you helped build? Or maybe you were the one always saying yes until it broke you. Drop a 1 in the comments if this story hit home, or tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to know which corners of the world are filled with people learning to reclaim their worth. And hey, if this video didn't land with you, that's okay too. Tell me why. I'm here to listen, not just to be heard. If this story touched something in you, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. We've got more real stories, more raw honesty, and more reminders that you're not alone in whatever you're walking through. Because sometimes, healing starts with hearing someone else say, "Me too." Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.
You're still wearing that same sour face, huh? This high-end restaurant isn't a place for someone like you. The moment he noticed me, the manager started grinning and immediately began picking on me. Are you washing dishes here? You're a high school graduate at your age and can't even do your job. I doubt anyone would hire you. His mistress laughed along with him, shaking her shoulders mockingly as she made fun of me. I see how it is. Hey, you get out of the customer's entrance. We have $1 million deal with a major construction company coming up. He made a shooing gesture like he was chasing away a stray cat and glanced at me briefly. Nothing had changed since we worked together. If anything, they had both gotten worse. But thanks to that, I could retaliate without hesitation. With anger burning in my chest, I calmly began my counterattack to drag them into the abyss. My name is John West. I work at a construction company. Our company mainly handles primary subcontracting work, receiving projects from major construction firms and distributing the work to secondary subcontractors. I've been the manager of the construction management department for 3 years. Despite the busy schedule, I found my work fulfilling and rewarding. But then, one day, a shocking event occurred. Vice President Smith staged a coup. The CEO, Mr. Anderson, was ousted without having time to prepare for his subordinates' rebellion. Mr. Smith's cunning move was to appoint Mr. Anderson as chairman, a position with no real power for appearance's sake, while he took control of the company as the new CEO. Naturally, the company was in chaos for a while, but many employees were too scared to oppose Smith's strong-arm tactics, fearing they might be next. During this time, Mr. Smith steadily placed his people in upper management. He also brought his son Steve, who was working for another company at the time, and made him the manager of the construction management department directly above me. The worst part was that Steve was even more arrogant than his father. He flaunted his position as the CEO's son, bossing everyone around from the moment he joined. He also openly looked down on employees who graduated from local colleges or high school, boasting about his degree from a prestigious private university. I caught his eye especially because I wasn't a college graduate yet held a managerial position. Ever since he became the manager, it became a daily occurrence for him to harass me, like not passing on important information. If I made even a slight mistake, he hurled terrible insults at me, calling me a high school graduate loser and such. Even so, I enjoyed my work, so I endured these treatments and diligently continued my duties. Then, after a while, a new person joined our company. Her name is Catherine. I heard that she was introduced by Steve and switched to this construction industry from another job because of that connection. Catherine was assigned directly under Steve in the construction management department, making her my subordinate. Today is her welcome party. The atmosphere in the company, where Mr. Smith holds the real power, is somewhat tense, and everyone seems uncomfortable, but the drinking party was proceeding without any trouble. As the drinks flowed and the mood relaxed, I got to go to the bathroom. However, on my way back, I witnessed an unbelievable scene. I couldn't help but peek at the familiar voices coming from behind the hallway shadows. There I saw Steve and Catherine whispering to each other. "Hey, let's sneak out together. This party is so boring. Don't be unreasonable. We can't have the guest of honor and the manager missing from your welcome party, can we?" The two people saying this were clearly not maintaining the usual distance between a boss and a subordinate. Catherine was leaning on Steve in a way that only lovers would. That's when it hit me. Wait a minute, Steve is married. Does that mean they're having an affair? Before they noticed me, I quickly pulled my face back and hurried back to my seat, still confused. Eventually, they returned as if nothing had happened. Seeing how natural they were, I realized that their relationship hadn't just started yesterday or today. Determined not to get involved, I decided to keep what I had seen to myself. But from then on, Steve often took Catherine out for fieldwork or inspections, leaving their desks empty more and more frequently. Their behavior became so blatant that everyone in the department started to notice, but no one dared to say anything. So, their actions escalated one day when it had become an unspoken rule within the department about their relationship. Catherine made a major mistake in her work. However, the first person Steve scolded was me. "Catherine is still not used to the work here. It's your job as her supervisor to support her." "Yes, I'm sorry. By the way, when I assigned that task to her, I had repeatedly warned her it's crucial to double-check, so don't send emails to the client on your own." This was because Catherine had made similar mistakes before, but in the end, it seemed she hadn't listened to my warnings at all and once again caused this clerical error through her own arbitrary decisions. Well, it was still true that I had failed to supervise properly. Oh, come on. That's why people with only a high school diploma are useless. I can't understand why someone like you is even a manager. It must be because that idiot former CEO promoted his favorites without any reason. I was instinctively angry at these words, but it was also true that Mr. Anderson liked me. If I clumsily argued back, it would only harm Mr. Anderson's position, so I apologized once more and then went to guide Catherine on her work. "Catherine, Everyone makes mistakes, but this is the second time you've made this error, right? I believe I told you to take proper notes of what you're instructed to do, I said. Instead of scolding her, I calmly explained. Catherine looked at me with an annoyed expression. Then in a childish, condescending tone, she replied, "Oh, did you say that? Sorry, I just can't remember things from guys I'm not into." As she fiddled with her overly decorated nails and flashy blouse, completely inappropriate for the office, she chuckled mockingly. Even I was taken aback. "Catherine, this is a workplace. It's for working. Your preferences don't matter here. Of course, in your private time, you can feel however you want, but as long as you're being paid, please take your job seriously." I said this a bit more firmly than usual. However, Catherine seemed displeased with this, and the next day, I was called in by Steve, the manager. "Hey you, I heard you said some awful things to Catherine. Poor girl is deeply hurt." I frowned at his words. This morning, Catherine came to work looking more glamorous than usual, and I even saw her making a hair salon appointment instead of working. She didn't seem deeply hurt at all, but that's beside the point. There's a misunderstanding. I just gave her some advice on her work attitude. But Steve glared at me as if I were a pesky bug. "What are you, a mere high school graduate, defying me?" "Fine, I see you need some time to reflect." Steve paused and then smirked. "From today, you're demoted to a regular employee, and Catherine will take your manager position." What? I was utterly stunned by this sudden decision. What is this guy saying? Is he serious? Hey, wait a minute, this is really unacceptable. Besides, Catherine doesn't even understand the work of this department at all. However, Steve, the manager, with his face turning red, yelled back at me, not listening to my objection at all. "Shut up. Shut up. Don't talk like you know anything, you bottom feeder. Do you know who I am? I'm the CEO's son. We're the ones running this company. If you got complaints, then get out." With that, Steve threw the documents that were on his desk at me. "Write your resignation letter right now. If you don't, I'll throw this ashtray next," he said, grabbing the ashtray from his desk. I reluctantly turned on my heel and left his office. Steve's voice seemed to echo throughout the department, and my colleagues looked at me with concern. But amidst the commotion, only Catherine was smirking at me, her eyes filled with a look of mockery and a clear sense of superiority. Seeing her face, I realized that surely Steve had been asked to promote her by his mistress. At that moment, I thought, well, whatever, and felt completely drained. The fact that Steve was using his father's position to privatize the company, Catherine was goofing off without doing the minimum amount of work, and I had to get caught up in their personal drama. All of it was just too ridiculous to bear. If there was one thing I regretted, it was about Mr. Anderson, who had always looked out for me. Once things settled down, I decided to apologize to him properly. Then, I quietly wrote my resignation letter and quit the company abruptly. A few months later, I found a new job at another company in the same construction industry and was busy working every day. Asterisk asterisk, today, I was heading to an upscale restaurant for a business meeting with another company. Just before the appointed time, I arrived at the entrance of the restaurant, which had a calm atmosphere with a modern touch. There I encountered two familiar faces for the first time in a while. It was Steve and Catherine, asterisk asterisk. Asterisk asterisk, they seemed to notice me too. Steve's eyes widened for a moment but then quickly turned into a sneer, asterisk asterisk. Asterisk asterisk. "Oh, look who it is. John, the guy we kicked out of our company. Still got that miserable look on your face. What are you doing here? This high-end restaurant isn't a place for a bottom feeder like you," he said, asterisk asterisk. Asterisk asterisk, in agreement with her lover's sneers. Catherine chuckled while wearing flashy clothes that were not suitable for business meetings, asterisk asterisk. Asterisk asterisk. "Oh, maybe this guy is working as a dishwasher here. He's only got a high school diploma at his age, and since he can't do this job, he can't get a job anywhere else," she mocked, asterisk asterisk. Asterisk asterisk. Steve, the department manager, gave a murky laugh at Catherine's sarcasm, asterisk asterisk. Asterisk asterisk. "Yeah, that's right, you're absolutely right. Catherine is not only beautiful but also quick-witted, unlike some loudmouthed high school graduates," Steve added, asterisk asterisk. Asterisk asterisk. "Oh, Steve, stop it. Catherine said, but the two of them, without any regard for the public, kept flirting and sticking close to each other. They showed no signs of change after several months, but rather seemed to be getting worse. However, Steve took my silent amazement as a convenient interpretation and continued with a twisted smile. Hey, a lowly part-timer like you should be using the back entrance. Get out of the way quickly. We have a $2 million business deal with a major construction company coming up, he said, dismissively gesturing as if shooing away a stray cat. I let out a sigh and responded calmly, excuse me, but the person you're about to meet for the business deal is me. Steve looked at me with a face that couldn't understand the meaning of my words. Beside him, Catherine also had her mouth open in astonishment. Ignoring the two of them, I continued. Despite claiming this is an important business deal, you didn't even bother to check the name of the person in charge on the other side. Well, Catherine has never checked the contract documents in the first place. But for you, Steve, that's surprising, I said, letting out another small sigh. Still half doubting, Steve snorted. Huh, there's no way a lowly high school graduate could get hired at that major company. I get you're frustrated, but don't lie so blatantly. Typical of the lowly, he said. However, I cut off Steve's words midway. This is ridiculous. What would I gain by lying at this point? Oh, you want proof? Here, let me give you my business card. I said. As I took out my business card from my inner pocket, they snatched it away and stared at it, their faces gradually turning pale. Yes, after leaving that company, I had immediately secured a job at a major construction company. In fact, I had been headhunted by the other party for a long time. They highly valued my years of achievements and experience. Furthermore, I had obtained the challenging architect certification while working, which added to my evaluation. I explained, glancing sideways at them, speechless with astonishment. I added, by the way, that's my old business card before it was reprinted. I have recently obtained my architect certification, and the new ones are being printed. I studied architecture by correspondence at Boston Architecture College, continued studying while working, and obtained my architect certification while at my previous company. What, an architect? Steve muttered. Although Steve used to look down on others as a businessperson in the construction industry, he seemed to understand the difficulty of obtaining the architect license. Responding to his reaction, I gave them a deliberately exaggerated smile. Did you finally believe me? I'm currently in charge of developing a new town for the company, and today was indeed for that business meeting, right? I said. Oh yeah, yes, Steve replied, taking a step forward to subtly intimidate them. I asked, and both Steve and Catherine nodded awkwardly, their faces pale with unease. After a pause, Steve forced a smile on his tense face and said to me, John, you sly dog. If you had told us earlier about your skills, we wouldn't have been so surprised. Honestly, I've always thought there was something different about you compared to the others. Just a moment ago, he was mocking me for being a high school graduate, and now he's spewing insincere praise. It's typical brown-nosing, but the sheer audacity is almost impressive. Catherine, following Steve's lead, plastered a sycophantic smile on her face. Oh, me too. I've always thought you were really smart, John, and actually, you're totally my type. Oh, you're making me blush, staring at me like that. As she swayed her hips suggestively, it seemed like she was trying to flirt, but to me it just looked like she was doing a weird dance. The moment I revealed my true identity, their attitudes changed completely. I guess they got into an affair because they're so similar. Holding back another sigh, I answered without unnecessary comments, we shouldn't waste any more time. Shall we start the meeting? They looked surprised but quickly nodded. They probably thought I'd sabotaged the meeting after being kicked out of the company, but I had a specific purpose in saying that. Once I sat down, I immediately asked them to present the contract estimate. Here's the estimate. We appreciate your consideration. Ignoring Steve's overly humble demeanor, I reviewed the document. My eyes stopped at the materials cost section. This was indeed clever. Excuse me, Steve called out, confused by my sudden pause. I looked straight at him and asked, are these figures for the materials cost accurate? I didn't miss the momentary flicker in Steve's eyes. This confirmed my suspicion. Catherine, I continued, we've received a tip that you have been inflating material costs and embezzling the difference. I'll ask again, are these figures correct? Well, that is. Without raising my voice, perhaps the intensity of my demeanor pressured her, causing Catherine to become visibly nervous. While closely watching their behavior, I feigned ignorance and tilted my head. This is strange. The estimates we provided earlier differ slightly in every category. These are small discrepancies that are easy to overlook individually, but when summed up, they amount to a considerable figure, don't they? Is that so? The two of them, uneasy under my questioning, fidgeted and exchanged glances. Eventually, unable to withstand the pressure, Steve slammed his hand on the table and, raising his voice as if to intimidate me, shouted, "That's a baseless accusation. We haven't done anything wrong." With that, he hurriedly left his seat, leaving the estimate documents behind. "Hey, wait, don't leave me here." Catherine, left behind, also shouted and chased after Steve, leaving the store. Quietly watching them leave, I casually made a phone call. I'd arranged to meet the person on the other end the following day and put the remaining estimate documents into my bag. The next day, I had taken a pre-approved day off and was visiting someone's house. After identifying myself through the intercom at the gate, the owner of the house came out to greet me. "Mr. Anderson," as I mentioned over the phone. I nodded my head, and Mr. Anderson nodded once. "Ah, you did well. Thank you." Yes, it was Mr. Anderson, who had been ousted by Mr. Smith, who had told me that Steve and Catherine might be inflating the cost of materials. A while back, I had visited this house to report that I had left that company, found a new job, and obtained my long-desired architect license. I also mentioned that my new company had a scheduled business meeting with Steve regarding the new town development project. It was then that Mr. Anderson asked me to investigate whether their suspected overcharging was true. Here's the estimate. Once inside the room, I handed Mr. Anderson the estimate I had received from Steve the day before. Mr. Anderson carefully checked the problematic areas, sighed slightly as if exhausted, then straightened up and nodded his head to me. "You really did a great job. I'm grateful. I knew it was unfair to ask you, who had already left the company, but I couldn't obtain conclusive evidence with my resources." Hearing the regret in his voice, I quickly shook my head. "Please don't say that. I'm the one who should be thanking you. You helped me so much, but I ended up leaving the company. I took this on because I wanted to be of some help, at least this time. Back when I was studying to obtain my architect license, Mr. Anderson provided me with helpful reference books and adjusted my work schedule to accommodate my studies. I believe I was able to obtain my architect license thanks to those days." Mr. Anderson eventually looked down at the estimate and muttered, "Thank you. Leave the rest to me." Then he smiled warmly and said once again, "Congratulations on passing the exam. I always believed you could do it, John." "Thank you." I accepted his words with gratitude. Mr. Anderson looked at me for a moment, and then his smile turned slightly wistful. "My true desire is for you to come back, but at the same time, I think you can go even further in that company and fully utilize your talents," he said. He gave a small chuckle, admitting he was being a bit selfish. Mr. Anderson must be planning to use the estimate I handed over to take down Smith's faction quickly. While the Smith family has been running wild in that company, Mr. Anderson hasn't been quietly retired. He's been gathering allies among employees who opposed Mr. Smith and former executives who were pushed out, secretly preparing to reclaim control. I had considered returning to that company myself, but I apologize for any inconvenience. However, I want to test my abilities in a new place. After changing jobs and achieving my dream, I became more ambitious. I wanted to see how far I could go. Mr. Anderson nodded with a smile and said, "Yeah," as I quietly finished speaking. "That's fine. It's your life, and I have my life to live too. Even in my old age, there's still much I can do. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of dreams you'll build from now on. I clasped his offered right hand firmly with both of mine. His hand, marked by various joys and struggles, was very warm. I promised myself I would never forget that warmth. After that, Mr. Anderson reported the embezzlement case to the police. As a result, the manager was arrested as the ringleader. Catherine was also sent to the prosecutor as an accomplice. To my surprise, further investigations revealed additional crimes by Steve, the manager. He had used similar methods in his previous job to inflate claims and pocket the difference. No wonder he seemed so skilled at it. I felt oddly satisfied understanding this, but Steve's actions became a significant scandal as he had been moving from company to company committing these crimes. Steve was rearrested and is expected to receive a prison sentence. Mr. Smith was forced to resign due to intense pressure both inside and outside the company, taking responsibility for his son's failures. As a result, Mr. Anderson was reinstated as the new CEO. I heard employees cried at his powerful declaration to rebuild the company from its foundation. It may take some time for things to settle, but I'm confident that Mr. Anderson will turn the company into a healthier organization. Meanwhile, I've been busy with the development of the new town. We plan to build high-rise condos with a theme of coexistence with nature and the city center. I'm in charge of the design from scratch. Together with my team, we're exploring better design ideas. Incidentally, we received a new estimate and have formally signed a contract with Mr. Anderson's company. Every day, I savor the joy of shaping my dreams and those of my team into reality. Please, at least let my daughter stay the night. I'm begging you. The woman held up her hand, revealing a $2 bill. Mom, don't try to leave me behind. I don't want to be without you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Seeing the mother and daughter crying and embracing each other, my heart itched terribly. All right, I got it. Enjoy our lodge's famous spas and meals to the fullest. I don't need any money. Just take your time and relax. And so, I invited them, mother and daughter, who had suddenly stumbled in during a fierce blizzard, to stay at the lodge. I had no way of knowing at the time that this would lead to an unexpected turn of events later on. My name is John Smith. I run a lodge at the foot of a certain mountain. Though unassuming, this lodge, called Mountain Lodge, has been passed down from my grandparents' generation and is known for its meals made with fresh mountain ingredients and free-flowing spas. 0 reservations again today. I let out a sigh as I stared at the completely blank reservation book. The number of guests at the lodge had been steadily decreasing as of late. You see, this whole area used to just be a small village with nothing but mountains. But urban development progressed, and a big city was built nearby. The new city had several nice lodging facilities, and guests started gravitating towards those instead. Mountain Lodge may be small, but it prided itself on good food and high-quality spas. Back when I was a kid, I remembered it being packed daily with hikers. However, even Mountain Lodge couldn't compete with the novelty and convenience of the new places. Now, hikers rarely use Mountain Lodge. Instead, if you can even call it that, Mountain Lodge started attracting only quirky guests and guests with complicated circumstances. Come to think of it, I wonder if that guide is still doing well. As I organized the books, I suddenly remembered a certain individual. This was a story from back when I had just started running Mountain Lodge by myself after losing my parents at a young age. I have experienced sheltering someone from the mafia at Mountain Lodge. I was still young and inexperienced back then, so I really panicked when that severely injured guest stumbled in. But looking back, it was a valuable experience. Well, even with that experience, it's not like the lodge was going to suddenly flourish. Maybe it's about time I consider closing down. I muttered to myself as I flipped through the ledger pages, thin enough to fit in a single file. Then one day, it happened. It's really coming down today. Outside the window, a fierce blizzard raged. The mountaintop that was usually visible was completely obscured, the whole area blanketed in white. Guests were closing up early today. There were no reservations to begin with, and no guests would show up in this weather. Just as I headed to the entrance to turn off the light at the outer gate right at that moment. "Hello, is anyone there?" I heard a faint female voice and the sound of someone knocking on the front door. I quickly opened the door to find a scantily clad, ragged-looking woman and a girl of about 10. Hey, what's wrong with y'all? I could tell at a glance they were in a bad way. I'd hurriedly invited them in and had them sit on the bench by the entrance for the time being. Explanations can wait. Right now, I'll bring a towel. While telling the two of them, who were shivering from the cold, I turned the heating on full blast and pulled out towels from the linen room. Here, use these. Thank you so much. Thanks, mister. The woman and girl, likely mother and daughter, looked very similar. Huddling close together, shivering slightly while wrapped in towels. The sight of them tugged painfully at my heart. Is there any way I can help y'all? I hate to say it like this, but I'm used to having customers with circumstances like yours. I won't ask for your reasons, so just tell me what you need. Thank you so much. Well, Hesitantly, the woman took something out of her pocket and held it out to me with trembling hands. This is all the money I have on me right now, but in her hand was clutched a $2 bill. With an expression that seemed crushed by remorse, she looked at me and apologized profusely. Please at least let my daughter stay the night. I'm begging you. Is that all? That's an easy request. I can accept this, though. You keep it. But I can't possibly. In exchange, you're going to stay with her. You're her mom, right? You shouldn't do things that make your daughter cry. Startled by my words, the woman looked over at the girl beside her. The girl was crying softly, tears streaming down her face. Mom, don't try to leave me behind. I don't want to be without you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The woman tightly embraced the crying girl. After waiting for their muffled sobs to subside, I went to the front desk to get a room key. Here, go up to the second floor. It's the room at the very end. Make yourselves at home. Are you sure this is okay, Jar? Don't worry about it. Plus, there aren't any other guests tonight. While you're at it, warm up in the spas and have some dinner. I don't need any money. Just take your time and relax. We couldn't possibly impose that much. Just as the woman started to politely decline, the girl's stomach let out a loud growl. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm really hungry and I want to get in the spas too. Oh, you, that's a good sign. She's feeling at ease now. Atta girl, now go warm up in the spas first. Let me know when y'all are done. I'll have a meal waiting in your room. Badly trying to sound more formal and joking, the woman finally seemed to relax a bit and smiled. Thank you so much. We'll gratefully take you up on your kind offer then. Thanks, mister. Sure thing. Take your time and enjoy Joy Mountain Lodge's famous spas and lodge cuisine. After welcoming the mother and daughter into the lodge and showing them to the spas, I immediately started preparing a meal. Alrighty then, it's been a while since I've made a proper meal. Standing in the kitchen, I began cooking dishes specifically for that mother and daughter. I've always enjoyed cooking. I grew up watching the backs of my grandfather and father, who were both chefs. Let's see, maybe a hot pot to warm them up and include more sweet dishes. There's no set menu for the cuisine at Mountain Lodge. I make a point to tailor it to each guest's needs. This has been our philosophy since the lodge was founded. As I finished preparing each dish one by one, I heard the pitter-patter of footsteps approaching from the hallway outside. Mister, we're done with our bath. Upon hearing her voice resound loudly, I felt relieved, thinking she's gotten quite lively now. Parting the curtains separating the kitchen and hallway, I found the mother and daughter looking thoroughly warmed up. Thank you so much, truly. You even prepared bathrooms for us. Don't mention it. No need to hold back. You're going to have dinner soon, right? It'll be ready in a bit, so could you wait in your room? Yes, thank you very much. Come on, sweetie, let's go. The woman expressed her sincere gratitude and headed towards the guest room, holding the girl's hand. They're still a bit wary of me, The woman never called her daughter by name in front of me. It didn't seem accidental, but rather intentional. Well, they probably didn't expect the lodge they turned to for help to be run by such a rough-looking guy all alone. As a mother shouldering some heavy circumstances, I thought it was the right call. I just hope they can relax and rest up a bit. With that wish, I started putting the finishing touches on the meal. Wow, amazing. It looks so yummy. When I brought the food to the guest room and laid it out on the table, the girl's eyes sparkled with delight. Mister, can I really eat all this? Sure can. There's plenty more where that came from, so don't hold back and eat your fill. Yay, thank you, mister. Time to dig in. After saying the quick prayer, the girl started eating the food with gusto. Meanwhile, the mother watched over her daughter's delight with a gentle gaze as she slowly ate. How is it? Do you like it? Yes, it's been so long since we've had such a luxurious meal. Glad to hear it. Take your time and savor it. If there's anything else you need, just holler. I really can't thank you enough for everything. Hey, we all help each other out in times of need, right? Don't do anything today. Just rest and relax, okay? Thank you so much. As I finished serving the meal and was about to leave the guest room, the woman turned to face me and graciously thanked me with a nod. Her refined mannerisms made me think that she must come from a distinguished family. It seemed the troubling circumstances surrounding them ran quite deep. Early the next morning, as I was preparing breakfast, the mother and daughter from last night came out to the front desk together. Mister, good morning. Thank you again for everything last night. The daughter, spotting me, waved cheerfully while the mother graciously nodded her head in a deep, respectful manner. What's this? You all heading out already? Yes, we really can't impose on your kindness any further. Well, that's fine and all, but hey, you got some place to go? The woman looked flustered at my question. Good grief, I sighed. Well, anyhow, at least have some breakfast before you go. I already got it ready and all, but it's all right. You don't gotta be so on guard. At the very least, there ain't nobody here who'd hurt you too. When I said that, the woman looked at me with a start. Then she hummed her head, looking apologetic. I'm sorry. No need to apologize. You're a wise mother. Now, come on, let's have some breakfast first. I led the mother and daughter to the dining room and laid out the morning meal I had prepared on the table. Thank you, mister. Time to eat, the daughter said, happily digging into her food. But beside her, the mother had a gloomy expression and didn't even try to touch her meal. What's wrong? You feeling sick? No, it's not that, but I prompted her to continue. Come on, out with it. Maybe there's something I can do to help. Even just saying it might make you feel better. She hesitated, wanting to say something. She was silent for a while but eventually opened her mouth with a troubled expression. The truth is, my husband's company went bankrupt. Because of that, he disappeared, leaving behind massive debts for me and our daughter. I see. So you're being chased by debt collectors then? Yes, I'm so ashamed. She didn't seem to be lying, and if she was originally the wife of a company president, it made sense why her mannerisms were so refined. You haven't been able to divorce your husband. No, my husband disappeared, leaving everything as is, so there's nothing I can do about it right now. I see. Do you have anywhere you can turn to, like your parents' place? When my parents found out about my husband's downfall, they told me not to come back. I never got along well with them to begin with, so I had no intention of relying on them anyway. Mom, what's wrong? Suddenly, I saw darkness in her eyes as her expression clouded over. She stared into the void, not responding to her daughter's worried question beside her. This is bad. I felt a sense of urgency. I recognized those lightless eyes. They were the same eyes as people who give up on everything, become desperate, and go into the mountains to end it all. I had to keep her here, no matter what. Why don't you and your daughter stay here for a while? What? Well, as you can see, this is a rundown lodge, but when guests do stay, it can be tough handling things alone sometimes. So it'd really help me out if you could work here as live-in employees for a bit. But why? Why would you go this far for complete strangers? Bothered that we're strangers. Then we can get to know each other starting now. As I spoke, I placed my driver's license on the table. John Smith. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. I'm Sarah Nichols. Lily, introduce yourself too. I'm Lily Nichols. Mister, is it really okay if we live here starting today? Yep. Let's get along from now on, okay? Thank you so much. I promise I'll repay this kindness. Sarah, standing close to her brightly nodding daughter Lily, had some light return to her eyes, and I felt relieved for the time being. I had been thinking it was about time to start shutting the mountain lodge towards closing down, but I couldn't say that anymore. But I have no regrets. I willingly took this on myself. I racked my brain even harder than before to make sure Sarah and Lily wouldn't be inconvenienced. The off-season is definitely a bit rough, I admitted. John, is something wrong? Oh, Sarah, it's nothing. That's this month's reservation book, right? I felt a bit awkward having her see something I didn't really want seen. Sarah peeked at the wide-open, completely blank reservation book and tilted her head. Winter is difficult after all, huh? Yeah, there's barely any hikers, but I can't let this situation continue either. John, I hope I'm not overstepping, but would you let me handle this for a bit? Oh, you got a good idea. Yes, I know someone in the lodging industry who was a business acquaintance of my husband's. If I contact them, they might be able to give some good advice. I see. All right, give it a try, but don't push yourself too hard. If word gets out that you're here, they might track you down. Yes, I understand. Sarah smiled softly and immediately started making a call to someone from the lodge's payphone. The results were great. Based on the advice she got, Sarah improved all sorts of systems at the lodge, from the reservation system to the website and management of various social media, and started heavily advertising the lodge. Sarah's skills, honed from supporting her husband's work behind the scenes, exceeded my expectations. Then, as the number of guests at the lodge gradually increased, Lily also started helping out with work at the lodge. Welcome. Welcome to Mountain Lodge. Oh my, what an adorable hostess. Don't you think, honey? Jess, she looks about the same age as our granddaughter. How impressive. Thank you so much. Let me show you to your room. Please come this way. Lily's cute and lively customer service greatly livened up Mountain Lodge. As an excellent poster girl of the mountains far from town, there was a small lodge where you could enjoy high-quality spas and delicious meals. That reputation spread rapidly, and guests started returning to Mountain Lodge. Then it suddenly happened. Yo, we're coming in. In the middle of the busy time, after all the day's checkouts were done and cleaning and meal prep were starting, a bunch of thuggish guys gathered at the lodge's entrance. What's this? You guys need something. At this point, I had an inkling. After impressing upon Sarah and Lily, who were cleaning the guest rooms on the second floor, to hide, I went to deal with the situation. You the owner here? Yeah, that's right. This woman's here, ain't she? The photo the man showed me was, as expected, of Sarah. I stared at it intently and shook my head. Don't know about that. Don't play dumb. We know everything. Hand over the woman. That's right. If you obediently hand over the woman, we won't cause trouble for you, man. Like I said, I don't know her. If you've got no business here, scram. What did you say? We're being polite here and you're getting all high and mighty. Hey bro, you know this woman's got debts. If you really want to protect her, you could pay off her debts for her, you know. The men glared at me menacingly, getting closer and closer. Guess I got to be ready to lose a tooth or two, I thought as I kept my mouth shut. Right then. Hey, what's taking so long to bring back one or two women? Another mafia member appeared at the entrance. I felt like I'd seen that man's face somewhere before and pondered for a moment. Boss. Thank you for your trouble. Boss, please tell him this owner keeps protecting the women. Huh. What's that? Hey you, that true? Wait, could it be you're the guy from... The man, who seemed to be a mafia underboss, gaped at me in astonishment. Our eyes met, and I finally remembered. I had met this man once before. Hey, you bastards, apologize now. What's this all of a sudden? Yeah, what gives, boss? Shut up and apologize right now. You're being too arrogant. I'm telling you, who the hell do you think this person is? The underboss forcefully shoved the mafia members' heads down, his face pale. Our young men have been terribly rude, Mr. Smith. So you are the guy from back then. We only met for a moment, but you remembered me? Well, of course, I wouldn't forget. Mr. Smith, you saved our boss's life. Saved his life? The boss? That's what I'm telling you. You should have already apologized and shut your mouths. Eek, yes, sir. Now, underboss, please don't shout so loudly. You're scaring my employees. Yes, I'm so sorry, Mr. Smith. The underlings and the underboss apologized to me profusely. Yeah, this was about 10 years ago. It was a day with a terrible storm. Having lost my parents around that time and somehow managing the lodge alone, I was hanging around absent-mindedly inside the quiet lodge with not a single guest. It's lonely, but it can't be helped in this weather. Back then, we still had a decent number of guests, but on days with bad weather like this, there's no denying the lodge was often dead silent. The time for same-day reservations had passed, and I was about to take a break myself when I heard a loud crashing sound from the entrance. What's that? Did the wind blow something in? I cautiously approached the entrance and opened the door. Whoa! At that moment, something large fell towards the inside of the entrance, and I involuntarily let out a loud yell. You the owner here? Upon closer look, it was a large man. The man collapsed in the entranceway, turned his gaze towards me. Yeah, sorry for startling you. Well, I'm at it. Mind lending me a hand? Huh. I looked down at the man, perplexed. From where the man had fallen, a pool of blood was slowly and steadily spreading. What happened to you? Made a bit of a blunder, you see. Got it. Just wait a sec. Much obliged. It didn't matter who that man really was or that his wounds undeniably looked like gunshot wounds. The bottom line was I had to administer first aid. So I brought the lodge's first aid kit and a large number of unused towels to the man. Later, I found out that man was the boss of a mafia family who had been chased by a rival family and stumbled into Mountain Lodge. Even after learning that fact, I couldn't bring myself to abandon him for some reason, so I sheltered him at Mountain Lodge until his wounds healed. Mr. Smith, I am truly sorry. To think the loader boss I was indebted to was here. No, it's only natural you didn't know back then. Your boss told me to choose a meeting spot far from the lodge so as not to cause me trouble. Is that so? You went all the way out there to see our boss off. I really can't thank you enough for what you did then. The underboss apologized profusely with the intensity of someone begging for forgiveness, while the underling Yakuza behind him also apologized nervously. This was all a bit too chaotic, and I'd nearly forgotten, but I remembered the matter at hand and turned back to the mafia underboss. Would you mind going home for today? It'd be a real pain if you caused more of a scene. Yes, of course. Hey, you lot, we're pulling out. Yes, sir. Understood. Oh, and one more thing. Yes, anything. Lay off the woman you're looking for. The proper thing to do is look for her husband who racked up the debt and ran, don't you think? Yes, understood. We'll be going then. After apologizing profusely one more time, the boss and the other mafia members left. After the mafia left, Sarah and Lily hurriedly clambered down from the second floor. Are you all right? Are you hurt? Did those men do anything to you? I'm sorry. You must have been so scared. Calm down, both of you. I'm fine. Nothing happened to me, really. But how? Did you beat up those scary guys? Something like that. As I patted the head of Lily, who was crying and clinging to me with her face all scrunched up, I signaled to Sarah with my eyes. Let's talk once things settle down, okay? All right. For now, first, we got to get ready to welcome today's guests. I urged Sarah and Lily on as I also returned to the lodge work. For the time being, if we no longer had to worry about debt collectors coming after Sarah and them, it probably meant this life would be coming to an end soon. I felt a bit like a hole might open up in my heart at that thought. Once we finished checking in the lodge guests and the day's work had settled down, I called Sarah and Lily to the employee room. Well, long story short, you don't got to worry about being chased by debt collectors anymore, Sarah. Thank you so much, John. I really don't know how to express my gratitude. She must have gone through a lot while being pursued by the debt collectors. Collapsing on the spot, Sarah repeatedly expressed her gratitude to me. You beat up those scary guys, right, mister? You're so strong. Thank you. That's right. Now you can live freely anywhere with your mom. Yeah, hooray. Hey, of course mister is going to be with us too, right? I want to live here forever with mom and mister. Lily, about that. As I spoke, I glanced over at Sarah. Sarah also smiled a bit awkwardly and gently turned Lily to face her, grasping her shoulders. Lily, listen carefully. Mr. John and us are strangers. We can't keep imposing on him forever. Why? How come? I don't want to leave here. I'm going to live here with Mr. and Mom. No, Lily. Please don't be selfish. No, 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 no. Why? Why do we have to leave? I love Mr. You do too, right, Mom? I know you do. At those words, Lily blurted out, and Sarah's face rapidly turned bright red. I'm so sorry, John. Please pretend you didn't hear that. I beg you, please forget it. Sorry, I don't think I can just forget that. Huh. I gently took Sarah's hand as she stood there, her face beet red, flustered, and frozen. Sarah, if you're okay with it, would you, keep living here from now on? John. Sarah stared at me intently, and I felt embarrassed. I reflexively let go of her hand. Sorry, forget it. No, no way. I won't forget it this time. Sarah firmly grasped my hand as I tried to walk away. You'll let us stay here, right? We'll be in your care, inexperienced as we are, yeah. She squeezed my hand tightly, smiling brightly. I couldn't look directly at Sarah's face. Beside us, Lily was grinning mischievously at me. I must have had a really embarrassed look on my face. Some time passed after that commotion. I heard Sarah's former husband had his whereabouts discovered by the mafia and was being made to work at a shady company they ran to pay back the debt. In the end, I've caused you trouble. As an apology, though it's not much, let me handle that man. I'll also have a lawyer take care of the necessary procedures on my end, so please take care of your wife. The boss from back then called me just once after that. Just as he said, the lawyer took care of everything from Sarah's divorce proceedings to alimony distribution and arranging Lily's school transfer. Thanks to that, Sarah and I are able to live at the lodge with Lily without any worries. John, good morning. Breakfast prep is all done. Oh, thanks. Lily already headed to school. Yes, she's going happily today too. It seems she's already made friends and is having fun every day. That's great to hear. I was really worried about Lily's school life, so I felt thoroughly relieved to hear it seemed to be going well. There's a parents' day at Lily's school coming up. That's nice. I'll figure something out here, even if I have to hire a part-timer. So you go to the parents' day, Sarah? No, Lily says she wants her dad to come. Still not her dad yet, though. It's fine, isn't it? Go for her dad. I'll manage things at the lodge. Well, if you say so, Sarah. Sarah, who had just divorced, and I couldn't get married yet, but Lily has already started calling me dad, and Sarah is working as the hostess of the mountain lodge. For all intents and purposes, we were already a family. Now then, shall we get to work? I'm counting on you, hostess Jess. Leave it to me, owner. We joked around like that and laughed together. Mountain Lodge was fully booked again today. I vowed in my heart to protect this lodge together with my new family. My name is Tom. As a surgeon at a general hospital, I spend my days extremely busy. The job of a surgeon is physically and mentally very demanding. My colleagues and junior doctors are always complaining about the busyness. Just yesterday, I was consulting with my good junior Alex. You know, this hospital is just too busy. I'm thinking about moving to another hospital, he said. What are you talking about? A general hospital is the best place to hone your skills, I replied. Despite everyone being exhausted, I was working hard for my wife, Sarah, and my soon-to-be 2-year-old son, Max. Max was angelically cute. When I get home, he greets me with his unsteady steps, calling out Daddy, and it soothes both my body and soul. But child-rearing was more challenging than I imagined. At times, since Sarah's burden with child-rearing inevitably became bigger, I took on as much housework as possible. I was not good at cooking, so I left that to Sarah, but I eagerly did what I could, like cleaning and laundry. Of course, whenever time allowed, I would play with Max or put him to bed, trying to give Sarah some time to rest. I would like to have a second child if possible, but due to the nature of being a doctor, my life schedule was irregular, and it was hard to find the right timing with Sarah, who was always tired. I had almost given up on bringing up the topic of a second child with Sarah. Even though it might be difficult right now, I have Max, who is more precious than anything, and I decided to wait patiently until Sarah gets into the pace of parenting. I fought so and was struggling with work and raising my son every day. As time went by, it seemed that Sarah was gradually regaining her strength. She seemed to be going out during the day, and her smile had increased. You seem to be in good spirits lately, I said. Do you think so? Maybe I'm finally getting the hang of it, Sarah laughed, and I was very happy to hear that. If things continue like this, Sarah might start thinking about a second child. I need to work harder for Sarah and Max. I thought about these things as I went through my days. But as she got better, Sarah started to neglect cooking. In the beginning, it was only occasional, but gradually it became more and more frequent to have takeaway or delivery. Sorry, I didn't have time today. Is takeaway hamburger okay? She said apologetically at first. Eventually, when I came home, she was asleep, and a store-bought hamburger was left alone in the dark room. I found out that Max was being left at daycare quite often. I thought Sarah needed a change of pace and didn't say anything at first, but she started to leave him there until quite late almost every day. I can't make it in time. Can you pick him up? She'd asked me more than once or twice. This must be going too far without outings. I was determined to have a serious talk with Sarah. One day, when I went to pick up Max from daycare as usual, a staff member approached me hesitantly and said, "Excuse me, can I have a moment?" "Yes," I replied. "It's about Max. Is he eating well at home?" "Excuse me, we think Max might have lost a bit of weight." Now, hearing that, I feel the same way. When we give out snacks here, he eats them so eagerly. It made us a little concerned. "I see. Thank you for bringing up something so difficult. I'll check with my wife," I answered calmly, but I was filled with remorse towards Max. But more than that, intense anger was welling up inside me towards Sarah. Could it be that she hasn't been providing proper meals to Max? If that's the case, it's unforgivable, not just for me but for Max. I thought I'd give her a piece of my mind today. With that thought, I headed home. When I got home, Sarah wasn't back yet. There was instant food on the table, but I didn't touch it and ate a deli I bought on the way home. The deli is from a nearby place known for its delicious and nutritionally balanced meals. "Max, is it good?" Yum. Max was happily gobbling down the meat. Watching him made me feel guilty again. When I weighed Max during his bath, as expected, his weight had decreased. As I was dressing Max in his pajamas, trying desperately to hide my frustration, I heard a sound from the entrance. It was Sarah. "Welcome back." "I'm home. I need to talk to you about something now. I just want to sleep." I was irked by Sarah's selfishness. After all her fun, she plans to sleep without even checking on Max. Just right now. Perhaps sensing my anger, Sarah reluctantly followed me to the living room. The daycare staff mentioned today that Max might not be getting proper meals lately. My dinner has been nothing but instant foods too. Aren't you slacking off a bit too much? You're not giving Max properly nutritious food, are you? His weight has dropped. If there's a reason, just tell me straight. Sarah remained silent, looking down and tapping her toes, seemingly irritated. Her lack of remorse made me even angrier. "I'm okay with having those meals, but you're Max's mother. What do you intend to do then?" Sarah stood up abruptly and said, "Stop nagging. I'm doing my best. It's just that Max won't eat what I serve him." "What? Enough already. I'm tired and going to sleep." "Hey, wait a minute." Ignoring me, she disappeared into the bedroom. What on earth is going on with Sarah? I was left standing there, dumbfounded. Realizing that this couldn't continue, I started preparing meals for Max every day for his sake. Even when work kept me late, I made sure to prepare plenty of meals in advance so he could easily eat. However, even as I juggled work and household chores to the point of exhaustion, Sarah's attitude remained unchanged. Then, one day during my shift, an emergency surgery came up. I was waiting with my colleagues for the ambulance to arrive. The patient was a young woman who seemed to have been hit by a car while walking. When the ambulance arrived and the patient was brought out, I was at a loss for words. It was Sarah. Sarah. Tom, fortunately, Sarah was conscious. Seeing me, she seemed surprised too as she was carried on the stretcher. Sarah explained to me what had happened. I was coming back from dropping Max off at daycare and got hit by a car. Got it. We'll talk later. You don't need to speak now. Despite saying that, I couldn't help but feel a faint question arising in my mind. The accident site we just heard about was quite far from the daycare, wasn't it? Why was Sarah in such a place? But Sarah's treatment was a priority now. I shook my head vigorously, trying to dismiss the doubts. "Sarah, you need surgery. The bleeding from your thigh is severe." "Surgery?" "Yes. Can you take off your clothes? If it's too painful, we'll have to cut them off." "Take off my clothes?" "No, no way." I know it might be embarrassing, but this is not the time for that. We can't proceed with the surgery like this. Then don't do it. Absolutely not. What's going on? If we don't do something, your life is in danger. I desperately tried to persuade Sarah, but she adamantly refused to take off her clothes. We couldn't get anywhere. We had to stop the bleeding somehow. I decided to have the anesthesiologist administer anesthesia and proceed with the surgery. Finally, once Sarah was unconscious, we began the preparations for the surgery. As we undressed her to change her into surgical attire, a nurse noticed a tattoo around her waist. Then she asked me, "Your wife has a tattoo?" No, I didn't know that. When did Sarah get a tattoo? Upon closer inspection, it appeared to be initials, but it wasn't my initials. As I was intently looking at the tattoo, I noticed one of the juniors retreating from the buzzing crowd. It was Alex, the one I had counseled before. What's going on? He looks pale as a ghost. Something was nagging at me, but this was not the time for that. I forced myself to look away from the tattoo and went back to preparing for the surgery. The surgery was successfully completed, and Sarah was hospitalized for a short while. Although I was relieved that the surgery was over, the thought of Sarah's tattoo haunted me, and a sense of unease clung to me. "Daddy," startled by Max's lonely voice, I snapped back to reality. I realized Max was looking at me with tears in his eyes. "Max, Mommy is okay, don't worry." Then, silently, Max clutched the hem of my shirt tightly. Right, Max has been feeling insecure all this time. I felt unbearable and hugged Max tightly. I must not let this continue. Holding Max in my arms, I resolved to clear up the doubts. I decided to hire a detective agency to investigate Sarah to clear the lump in my throat. Though I had my suspicions about Sarah, deep down, I hoped it was all a misunderstanding and nothing would come of it. But regrettably, the agency provided undeniable evidence of Sarah's infidelity within just a few days. As I thought, deep down, I knew I was just turning a blind eye to reality. And more shocking news was revealed. The cheating partner was one of my junior doctors. It was Alex, who had turned pale when the tattoo was found. It was all too clear upon reflection. The initials on her tattoo matched his. I thought he was a close junior, but he had been betraying me behind my back. I felt as if false strength was draining from my body and my own foolishness. But I couldn't just sit idly by. I have someone I need to protect. Max. I decided to get a divorce and started to organize my things. A few days later, Sarah came home from the hospital using crutches. "What's this all about?" Seeing the living room packed up as if we were about to move, Sarah let out a surprised gasp. She stood frozen at the entrance, seemingly not having expected this. But when she saw the divorce papers on the table, she murmured, "Ah, I see," and sat down quietly in a chair. "I know everything." I showed Sarah the report from the detective agency and said calmly, "So all the outings were for this reason. I can no longer trust you. Let's get a divorce. After all the betrayal, you can't possibly object, right?" Then, with a sigh mixed with a chuckle, Sarah said, "I won't say anything. Fine, let's get a divorce." Her casual tone irritated me. Despite being at fault, she had the nerve to act so defiant. I didn't want to talk anymore, but there was something I had to ask. "Why? Why did you have an affair? Are you really in love with that guy?" "Yes, seriously. Actually, he was the one from the start." "What do you mean? You really didn't notice?" "How, Maeve?" Saying that, Sarah smirked maliciously. "I've been with him long before we got married." "What?" I felt as if I had been struck hard on the back of my head. "But he was just a resident with no money." "Money? I married you for financial stability," and continued seeing him. "So you've both been deceiving me this whole time." "Well, you could say that." "My bad." Sarah said it lightly, not seeming to feel guilty at all. "This is just too much." A mix of anger and sorrow made my head spin. Without paying any attention to how I felt, she continued, "But now he's a full-fledged doctor. I'm going to divorce you and marry him. It's good that we got caught." I glared at her, holding back tears. "You, what a person you are." "Thank you for everything," she said with a sneer, appearing as a stranger to me. I couldn't believe my entire marriage was a lie from the start. What a person. I didn't want to talk to her anymore. I felt like running away right then, but there was still something important to decide. Took a deep breath to maintain my composure and broached the most crucial topic. As for Max's custody, of course, I'll be taking him, I stated firmly, looking into Sarah's eyes. I thought she'd say she didn't want custody since she hadn't been taking care of him at all, but surprisingly she said, "Wait a minute. I won't give you Max." "What are you talking about? You've barely looked after him, always leaving him at daycare or with me. This is the line over here. You're always busy with work and you don't put your family first. You didn't praise Max." "I did." "What? What kind of logic is that? We're not getting anywhere. Does she not realize how much I've sacrificed for Max's upbringing, even losing sleep over it? After neglecting Max for so long, I can't believe she can say such things." She stubbornly continued to refuse, saying, "I won't give up Max." Seeing that we were getting nowhere, I decided to make a proposal to her. I wasn't too keen on it, but I had no choice. "Look, we're not going to resolve this between us. How about we let Max choose?" "Let Max choose?" "Yes. Shouldn't we respect his feelings?" "All right, fine." I was honestly very nervous about my own suggestion. Even though I had been the one taking care of him, I couldn't help but worry that he might still choose his mother in the end. Sarah's easy acceptance of my proposal suggested she was confident that Max would choose her. What if Max chooses Sarah? I shook my head vigorously, trying to dispel the negative thoughts. Then I brought Max from the other room where he had been watching TV. I kneeled down to be at eye level with Max and asked him, "Max, we need to talk about something difficult. Daddy and Mommy are going to live separately. Who do you want to live with?" I didn't expect my 2-year-old son to understand, but I looked into his eyes and asked him. As expected, Max seemed confused, looking back and forth between Sarah and me. He seemed unsure what to do and started waving his stuffed toy around. "Maybe it's too harsh to make him choose." Just as I was about to give up and stand, he said, "Daddy," with tears in his eyes, and clung to my leg. "I want to be with Daddy. Don't leave me. I like Daddy." "Max." I hugged him tightly, feeling overwhelmed with joy. Sarah turned pale and stood up abruptly with a loud noise. "Max, why don't you want to come with Mommy?" She tried to coax Max with a soft voice, but he shook his head and said in a small voice, "I don't like Mommy. Mommy is always gone. Daddy plays with me. Daddy's food is yummy. I like Daddy. I don't like Mommy." Sarah was at a loss for words in response to Max's remarks. Max was earnestly expressing his feelings. He's so small, yet he sees everything clearly. Max's sincere words warmed my heart. "It's okay. As long as I have Max, I'll be fine." "So that settles it. I'll take custody." "Fine," Sarah thought. "Okay, I can just have another child with him." She tried to hide her frustration with a loud retort. "I thought, serves you right, but that no longer mattered. Max and I are going to live our life together." Afterward, the divorce between Sarah and me was finalized without issue. The news of our divorce quickly spread among my colleagues, along with the reason being Sarah's affair and that the other man was Alex. Faced with everyone's disdain and being ostracized, Alex came to apologize to me later. "Tom, I'm truly sorry. I know an apology doesn't fix what I did, but I truly regret the terrible thing I've done. I see Sarah and I have broken up. I'm leaving this hospital and will start over at a hospital in the countryside that I have been considering." "All right, but I can't accept your apology, Tom. Of course, Sarah is to blame too. But you knew she was my wife and that we had a young child, and yet you continued your affair with her. I can never forgive you for that." "I understand. I'm grateful for everything up to now." Not long after Alex moved to a regional hospital, I sometimes wondered how Sarah was doing now that her plans to marry him had fallen through. But it was none of my concern anymore. Then one day, something shocking happened. Sarah, abandoned by Alex, stormed into the hospital. Sarah. I saw her after such a long time. She looked disheveled, her hair a mess, and she appeared quite shabby. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" "Where is he? Where is he?" Sarah asked me in a frail voice. Up close, her skin was rough, and she looked extremely tired. "Him? Oh, you mean him? Jess, go call him right now." Sarah screamed like a banshee, her hair flying wildly. The other doctors and patients looked on from a distance. pitying her, but I didn't feel sorry for her at all. You don't know? He left this hospital, moved to the countryside. What? What do you mean? Poor you, got dumped. Oh, seems like you don't even know where he went. Tough break. What? You know where he is? Tell me. Yes, I know, but do you think I'd tell you? Sarah glared at me, but I continued with a smile. Oh, and I've already spoken to your parents about the situation. They both cried and apologized to me. What? You talked to them? Of course. I had to explain the circumstances of the divorce. How could you? They were pretty angry with you, you know. Even if you begged them for help because you can't pay the child support, they probably wouldn't. As I said that, Sarah collapsed on the spot as if all strength had left her. She was crying, but naturally, I felt no inclination to reach out to her. Well, work hard on your own and make sure to pay all the child support. I won't let you escape until you've paid up every penny. Be prepared for that. With that, I left her behind. The responsibility I bear has grown heavier since the divorce, but thinking of Max gives me strength from deep within. Lately, my cooking has improved, and seeing Max eat happily fills me with joy. The happiest moment is when Max sees me, runs over with a big smile, and calls out, "Daddy." All my fatigue vanishes in an instant. Even without a mother, I'll never let Max feel lonely. I'll devote everything to ensuring Max's happiness. Carrying the sleeping Max on the way back from daycare, I made this vow in my heart. Even now, I've turned 30, I sometimes dream about something. I had the same dream again tonight. I know this is just a dream. In the dream, it happened in a high school hallway during break time. I was goofing around with my friends. The one passing by was my rival, the only one I couldn't beat in grades or character. I'm responding to a classmate who approaches me with a gentle expression. His confident demeanor was annoying. My friend took advantage of my distraction with her and tripped me up, saying, "Gotcha." As I was about to fall, I reflexively grabbed something. It was a sensation like nothing I'd ever felt before. It was soft, warm, and too big to fit in my hand. It took me a few seconds to realize what I had grabbed was her. Well, it was her boob. "I am sorry," I apologized hurriedly, but she calmly said, "It's not worth an apology." I'm still curious about the meaning of her words. That's why I keep having this dream. I let out a small sigh as I woke up to the alarm clock. My name is David Miller, and I'm turning 30 this year. I got a job at a well-known company right after graduating from university. I was assigned to the system management department. It's a department that takes on the entire system management for the company. The work is rewarding, and I also got a beautiful girlfriend. My perfect life isn't something that just started recently. I was perfect from the moment I was born. Born into an old family, I was raised without any hardship. From the time I became aware of the world around me, I was told that I was handsome, excellent in school, athletic, and tall. Throughout elementary and middle school, I was hailed as a prodigy. It can't be helped that I misunderstood that I was highly competent because of how I was raised. In fact, I was a person with no faults. However, a turning point came when I entered high school. For the first time, I met someone who I might lose to. She is the honor student Fergal. She was excellent not only academically but also athletically. The big difference between her and me was her popularity. Unlike me, who was immature in character, she was already complete. There was hardly anyone who disliked her in school. She always had a gentle expression on her face. I was not good at her. Her name was Ashley Brown. She always had her shoulder-length hair tied back. I still vividly remember the pleasant smell of her shampoo whenever she walked by. When I found out she was applying to the same college as me, my competitive spirit ignited like never before. The college we were aspiring to was among the most challenging. I swore to myself that I would make up for all the times I'd lost in the past right here. Swearing to myself, I hit the books like never before. I was so relentless in my studies, not allowing myself a single mistake, that my parents would worry and suggest, "How about taking a break?" Once, she spoke to me after she found out we were applying to the same college. "David, I'd heard you're applying to the same college. Let's do this together," she said. I felt embarrassed when she flashed me her sparkling smile. She said she brought some candy and left a strawberry-flavored one on my desk before she returned to her own seat and looked out the window. There was a hint of melancholy on her side profile. I think this was about 3 days before the exam. On the day of the exam, I searched for her at the test center. Since we had all applied together from school, our candidate numbers should have been close. Proof of this was that my other friends had close candidate numbers. The seat 3 in front of me was empty. It was probably her seat. At first, I thought she was just running late. I was so concerned about her empty seat that honestly, I couldn't concentrate on the exam. As a result, I couldn't focus on the exam, and my college entrance exam ended. Of course, I passed. My desperate study for the entrance exam didn't let me down, but I felt betrayed by something more important. I never saw her again after that. She didn't show up at the graduation ceremony either. There were rumors that her father's company had been scammed and gone bankrupt. Apparently, they had left town in the dead of night, almost like they were on the run. She couldn't even think about the college entrance exam. She must have noticed the situation of her family. I think the melancholy on her face as she looked out the window was because she knew that her happy student life was ending. Our paths would never cross again. I remember feeling incredibly lonely after the graduation ceremony, looking at her empty seat where no one sat. My life as a working adult has been smooth sailing. I stood head and shoulders above my peers and kept getting promoted. It felt easier than my student days, almost like a game. There was no one in the company who could compete with me. I think that's why I grew into an adult who completely took life for granted. I also got a girlfriend, Lily, known as the most beautiful woman in the office. She joined the company 2 years after me. From the moment I first saw her, I decided that she was the one for me. I wooed her on the day of the welcome party for the new employees, and we quickly started dating. I'm thinking of getting married in the future, but lately she's been pressuring me to get married, and I'm a bit taken aback. Around this time, it was decided that the company's system would be completely revamped. After a series of competitive presentations, we finally decided on who we would hire to set up our system. It was not a large corporation but a small IT company. Though small, the company outshined its competitors in their presentation. Apparently, they have a real hotshot engineer. The representative of the company, a man named Stanley, showed up for our first meeting. He was a rather attractive man with a cool vibe, so much so that the women in our team were quite smitten, and the guy was good at his job. During the meeting, I was constantly amazed at how fast he could think. He said he would bring the person in charge for the next meeting, and that was the end of our first encounter. I assumed the person in charge would be the ACE system engineer. I was excited to meet this person. They were apparently the same age as me, 30. I was excited, feeling like I was about to meet a worthy rival after a long time. The excitement was the same kind I felt when I was competing with Ashley Brown during our college days. When I saw who was coming to the meeting that I had been waiting for, I was so surprised I thought my jaw was going to drop. I'm the person in charge, Ashley Brown. The person who showed up at the second meeting was her, the one who disappeared on the day of our college entrance exam. There was still a resemblance, but she was not the honor student she used to be. Her very short hair was dyed silver, and there were several piercings. The calm, gentle expression that was always on her face was gone. "Oh, hi, Miller. I'm in charge of system management." We greeted each other as if we were meeting for the first time. When I handed her my business card, she took it politely. "I don't have a business card because I'm a contractor. I'm sorry." Apparently, she was not a full-time employee. She introduced herself as a freelance system engineer. Stanley had asked her to work at his company. The meeting went unbelievably smoothly. She presented a flawless system proposal, and I couldn't find anything to question. Above all, her explanations were concise and easy to understand, appealing to people's senses. Even the bosses who weren't familiar with the system could understand everything from her explanation, so I didn't need to add any. It was a meeting that would usually take twice as long, but it ended before we knew it. Stanley always said that shorter meetings were better. After confirming a few points about future meetings with Stanley, we called it a day. As Ashley was packing up her laptop, I gathered up my courage to speak to her. I was nervous, thinking, what if I was mistaken? "Do you remember me?" I asked. At my words, she seemed to smile a bit. "I remember. You've done well, David. I heard you're in charge of the system." The last time we exchanged words was back in high school, and it felt strange to be talking to her again as adults. What have you been up to since then? You gave up on your exam too." My words came out more accusatory than I intended. This was my only acknowledged rival. Her sudden disappearance left me feeling betrayed, and I couldn't shake that off. It was a story from more than 10 years ago. Surely she must be annoyed being blamed for something so far back. Just as I expected, she knitted her brows with a look of annoyance. It was a facial expression I'd never seen before. "What I've been up to since then is none of your business, isn't it, David? You really have no tact." I was infuriated by her dismissive tone. "What the hell? The nerve of you. I'm just worried about you." I unintentionally raised my voice. "Is something wrong?" Mr. Stanley approached. I didn't know what to say. "What do you want to know, Miller?" "About my college situation. I couldn't go. I didn't even graduate high school. My highest level of education is middle school." "Is that what you wanted to know?" "I don't need your concern. Don't make fun of me." She glared at me as she stated this clearly. The person I've cared about so much is a middle school dropout. I couldn't accept this reality at once. She was the only one I considered a rival. To be honest, there was even a part of me that admired her. "Don't be ridiculous, Ashley. You've hit rock bottom like that." I knew my words were childish, but all I could do was berate and belittle her education. "Nonsense. You just have to work your way up with your abilities." Her words left me dumbfounded. I felt like I'd been hit back. It was as if my narrow-mindedness was being held up in front of me. While I was at a loss for words, she left the meeting room quickly. I could see Mr. Stanley whispering something to her. Her slender arm was briefly wrapped around Mr. Stanley's waist in response. Their natural interaction suggested that their relationship was more than just temp and employee. The Ashley Brown I knew no longer existed. In addition to feeling lonely, a strange sense of despair engulfed me. I realized that I had idealized Ashley. Meanwhile, despite my relationship with Ashley, the project was proceeding smoothly. I was gradually getting used to the fact that she was not the person I had idealized. In fact, everything went smoothly with her. She seemed to understand everything I was thinking, and she constantly met my expectations. It felt as if we had been together for many years. "Hey, are you listening to me?" Lily was pouting in dissatisfaction next to me. It seemed I had been absent-mindedly recalling something about Ashley during our cafe date on our day off. Honestly, I wasn't listening to Lily at all. "Sorry, I'm just a bit tired from work." I tried to make an innocent excuse with a smile. Lily puffed her cheeks, looking displeased. "Humph. Lily, who can be a little selfish, dislikes being put in second place. She's the type that won't be satisfied unless she is the top priority. I used to find that adorable, but today it's not charming at all. Hey, about that temp girl, the shady one with silver hair. I heard she dropped out of high school, lol." Lily chuckled with a snobbish smirk. It seemed to be rumored in the office. I've even had coworkers question whether it's okay to trust the main system to a high school dropout. Each time I had to hold back my rising anger. I never thought that my girlfriend would say the same thing. It doesn't really matter once you're in the real world, right? If you got the talent and the skills, that's what matters, I retorted. I had no intention of defending Ashley, but it came out sounding like I was. Lily didn't like that. She didn't like that I disagreed with her opinion. "What, have you been charmed by her too, David? Weren't you the one saying anyone without a college degree is trash at the company?" Come to think of it, there was a time when I said something like that. Now I realize how arrogant and foolish I was. In fact, high school dropout Ashley is still a few steps ahead of me. Apparently, she even dated Stanley. She eats men up and throws them away at her assignments. Lol. I couldn't hold back my anger at Lily's contemptuous remarks. "What the hell do you know about Ashley? You happily spreading such vulgar rumors, you're the worst." I snapped. Normally, I don't raise my voice. Lily was taken aback. We rarely had fights since we started dating, but I just couldn't stand it when Lily made fun of Ashley. "Why do I have to be scolded? Did I say something wrong?" Lily's face teed and glaring at me looked disgustingly ugly. She might have not meant to be bad. I probably shared the same mindset with her all along. "Sorry to interrupt. Isn't it a waste of time to fight over me?" Suddenly, we were surprised by Ashley's voice coming from behind. She seemed to have been working at the cafe counter. She had her hoodie up, so I didn't notice Ashley at all. Come to think of it, this cafe is near Ashley's workplace. We were the ones stepping into Ashley's territory. I just told the truth. I didn't do anything wrong. Lily glared at Ashley and, shouting, she bolted from the cafe. All I could do was watch Lily's back as she left, abandoned in the cafe. Ashley moved over to my table, bringing his laptop with him. Isn't that your girlfriend, David? You're not going to chase her, Ashley said without taking his eyes off his laptop screen as she saw our quarrel. I couldn't reply immediately. As I remained silent, Ashley sighed softly. Why did you two argue like that? Well, wasn't that a harsh way to talk about Ashley? You don't know he was a top-notch student with both beauty and brains. Judging him like he's a loser, isn't that awful? I felt strangely fled as I was being questioned. I didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted Lily to understand that. I was arguing with her to defend Ashley, but Ashley just stared at me with cold eyes. These were not the calm, bright eyes Ashley had back in our student days. They were unbelievably cold and dark. Do you think I'm happy about what you did? She said, her voice choked with suppressed anger. How can you speak so confidently without knowing anything? That was just for show. Is flaunting your own righteousness a male trait? My homeroom teacher in high school was like that too. It's ridiculous. Ashley began to talk about her past. She pretended to be a straight-A student in order to get a scholarship. Apparently, her family fell apart during middle school, and it seemed like Ashley was the one holding the family together. Of course, going to college was out of the question. Ashley had been aiming for a special scholarship. Considering her grades, she could get a scholarship from any college. She said she wanted to escape from her home as soon as possible. Then she was called by the homeroom teacher who had something to discuss. She was told to give her scholarship spot to another student and take the SAT, which made her doubt her ears. The homeroom teacher was smiling, satisfied with his decision. He didn't even notice Ashley, who was in despair right in front of him, being forced to take the SAT. Ashley worked harder than ever. But all that effort was in vain, as her family had to run away in the middle of the night due to financial difficulties. There was no way she could take the SAT under such circumstances. Hard work pays off, huh? That's the word of those who were rewarded for their efforts. Ashley ended her story with this line. That's why, David, I get annoyed when I see you. You've been blessed since high school and you shine. Honestly, I didn't want to meet you. She slammed her laptop shut, crumpled up the 2 checks, and with a thin smile, Ashley left the cafe after quickly settling the bill, leaving me dumbfounded and at a loss for words. Listening to Ashley's footsteps, I wondered what I did wrong. The more I thought about it, the more I felt like denying my own life. But that would just make me feel miserable. I downed my cold coffee in one gulp. Ever since running into Ashley on a day off at a cafe, her demeanor became even more businesslike than before. I could tell from her attitude that she wanted to get this job done and cut ties with me as quickly as possible. Even though I was hurt by her attitude, we carried on with our work in a businesslike manner. Mr. Stanley started to accompany her to meetings that she used to attend alone. There was no chance to speak with her one-on-one anymore. I could tell she was avoiding me completely. Her attitude began to irritate me, and I found it harder to concentrate on my work. To make matters worse, I reached my limit when I saw the two of them getting along so well during meetings. I heard rumors that they'd broken up. But even then, seeing her put complete trust in Mr. Stanley stoked my jealousy, and I couldn't stop it. That's when I made a big mistake. It was a communication error about a system specification change. Distracted by the two of them, I made a beginner's mistake. Even though it was a beginner's mistake, a communication error about a specification changes could be fatal. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention the specification changes during our last meeting. I realized my mistake when I was shown the developed system. As soon as I realized it, I broke out in a cold sweat, and my heart began to pound. Mr. Stanley's expression changed quickly when he heard what I said. Even if there's some leeway in the schedule, specification changes are challenging. What do you mean by that, at this late stage? Specification changes now. Mr. Stanley, who has always been calm, raised his voice. I've been watching my team build this up. I guess it's no surprise that the words at this point are slipping out of my mouth. I bowed my head and apologized many times. We still have some leeway in the schedule, so it should be fine. Please let me check the details of the specification changes, I said, trying to control the situation. Mr. Stanley, who had changed color, said in a quiet voice, "I think she tried to prevent my mistake from being known to other colleagues." Ashley laughed a little and said, "We can do it." In the end, all we got was a reply that the delivery date would be just in time. Ashley said, "Don't worry," as she passed me, who couldn't hide my upset at making my first mistake since becoming a working adult. Just before the delivery date, I brought some gifts and went to Ashley's company. The lights were still bright even after work hours. When I rang the doorbell, Mr. Stanley answered. When I handed over the gifts, he smiled happily and said, "Thank you, we've received some gifts." When he called out to the company, men with unshaven faces appeared one after another and swarmed around the bag of gifts. "I'm truly sorry for the inconvenience," I said, bowing my head. Mr. Stanley said, "It's okay," and smiled. "Thanks to Ashley's full support, I think we can make it in time." I heard that Ashley, who took on the specification changes, was blamed by other employees when she brought the changes back to the company. There was probably criticism, saying, "Now you decide to take on such a reckless task." It was Ashley herself who silenced them. She bowed her head and asked for their support, assuring them that she would follow through on everything and take full responsibility. Ashley is a contract worker. She navigates this industry on her own. She hardly ever fawns over others or relies on them, and yet she bowed her head deeply and asked for cooperation. The office quieted down in an instant. Making Ashley beep like that. "David, I'd like you to tell me what kind of relationship you and Ashley have." Stanley, still smiling, spoke those words, but his eyes weren't smiling. I was a little taken aback by his serious gaze. "Well, I got rejected by Ashley. She told me she had someone she likes since her school days and can't forget him." As he told me this while picking up a sandwich from the catering, I thought my heart was going to stop. "Oh, you went to the same school as Ashley, right? Do you know what kind of guy she liked?" His teasing made me sit up straighter. I realized he was pushing me forward. "She was talking about me," I responded lightly, and Stanley gave me a playful punch in the chest. Pointing to a door in the back, he informed me, "She's napping." Hearing his words, I ran to the door at the back. Without knocking, I opened the door to find Ashley sleeping soundly on the couch. The sound of the door closing made her eyelids twitch slightly. "Shut up." Ashley's voice was scratchy. She seemed even smaller than when I saw her last time. "Ashley, wake up. I have something to ask you." I kneeled down near the couch where Ashley was sleeping. She seemed to wake up all at once when she heard my voice. Jumping up, she looked around wildly. "David?" Pulling her blanket up to her chest, she looked at me, unable to hide her surprise. "Stanley told me." "Who's this person you can't forget?" Her face went white at my words, and she glared at the door, probably glaring at Stanley in the other room. Her face turned red in no time at all. I looked into her eyes and asked again. She just blushed and didn't answer. "I heard you were supposed to take the same college entrance exams." The next moment, I felt an impact on my face. It took me a few seconds to realize that she'd thrown a cushion at my face. I have forgotten about such old memories. The sight of a fuming Ashley, her face bright red, is unbearably adorable. Usually, she's full of self-assuredness, but right now, she looks just a little bit younger and flustered. I feel closer to the Ashley I know. That night, I was dumped by Lily. "It's your responsibility to pick me up, Ashley." She clicks her tongue, looking at me after my slightly crafty remark. I wait silently for her to speak. Finally, she opens her mouth after the long silence. Ashley's feelings are now completely laid bare. "If you were dumped, I guess it can't be helped. If you behave, I'll take you in." I think there must be an unbreakable bond between her and me. If only we had just told each other we loved each other back when we were students. I'm amazed at how far around we've come. From now on, I want to spend my life with her. I want to take my time hearing about her life when I wasn't around. "So when's the wedding?" I ask Ashley, riding on the wave of excitement. She gives me an exasperated look. "For now, make sure you propose properly once the job is done." The moment her expression shifts from exasperation to a full smile, my life changes color completely. I want to promise her a life happier than anyone else in the world. I truly feel it from the bottom of my heart. She gets up from the sofa and returns to her desk, immediately resuming work. I sit next to her, trying to help out as much as I can. There's a bug that keeps occurring here, I explain, pointing at the source code displayed on her computer. Her fingers writing out the code for review hesitate for a moment. What if we do this? Ashley quickly begins to refactor the program. I am in awe of her technique. David, you're pretty talented. It makes it easy to work with you. We're a great team. Looking at the system now running smoothly, she smiles joyfully. It was just like being back in our student days. The classmate who was the only one who could shake my feelings since high school soon became my wife.